All right, so after our discussion in class, we've pretty much figured out that we think we can use HTML5 to do our validation. But remember my concern, this is for the people who weren't here, my concern was if we plug in mins and maxes into the HTML5 directly, we're isolating, or we're not isolating our GUI and our business classes anymore. So we brainstormed it, came up with some good ideas, and so now the first thing I want to do is go through my JavaScript because it is no longer responsible for setting mins and maxes. So the first thing I see is this function has got to be going away.
Well,
No, it doesn't need to because if we set it in the HTML5, the JavaScript can read it.
okay.
And that, remember where that gets done. We're setting these mins and maxes on the server side, so they're getting plugged into the form, and then the JavaScript can ask, what's your min and your max?
Yeah, okay. I get
All we're doing here is what we were doing is setting them. So I'm pretty sure, and I'm about as gutless as you guys are here, I'm just going to comment them out just in case. All these on blurs don't change. That was our discussion. We still like the fact that on blur can go on. I have a num weight pound key press. I think that's okay for some of the browsers because they let you type text into numeric fields, and this will prevent them from doing it. There should always be integer key presses unless you're allowing decimal places. Okay. And we don't have any decimal numbers here, so that won't matter. And this date picker at some point I'm going to modify, but for right now it's still there. Is there a date picker on the phone? I don't remember the date picker on there. Might be leftover. Okay, so all those are pretty much the same. Here's the mins and maxes function. So that I can pretty much comment out. The one thing we haven't included in our JavaScript is a size limit here.
You can size on it.
Maximum number of characters. So that's something we'll have to experiment with here. Just because it's not blank doesn't mean we shouldn't yell at them, because if it's too long, that's going to cause problems with our database. Sometimes, like access, you stuff too much stuff, try to stuff too much stuff into a field, you get an error. I think with MySQL, if you make it too big, you'd normally get a warning, but it'll truncate it. And that's not any better than getting an error. I'd much rather get an error saying it's too long so I can complain to the programmer saying your field's not long enough. So that would probably park in here someplace.
Unless we set the max length.
Well, we'd still have to check it in the JavaScript, right?
No, if you set it, you can't type in more than that many characters. It limits what you can type in.
Okay, then we're going to test that. So what Lorene just said, in case it didn't make it into the recording, is if we set the max length, which we looked up, it forces in HTML5 that field to accept no more than that number of characters. And so we can't type too many, it'll just stop, kind of like C# does. If that's the case, then we're good. We don't have to check it in the JavaScript because the HTML5 is going to prevent us from typing anything too big. Okay, so I just want to walk through here and make sure there aren't any other constants hiding in here. The max validate pounds. How do we know if it's out of range? If the input is less than 0. Now here we're in JavaScript saying validate the pounds. First of all, saying is it required?
Required we have to for the on blur.
Pardon me?
Required we want to, because then you get your on blur.
But do I want to type it into my JavaScript? Because again, now I have a rule in two different
You want it in
models.
both places. The on blur to make it more friendly.
Right.
But is
The
there a way
JavaScript
for the
indicates it's turned
JavaScript
off.
to check the field?
Yeah, you could
The
say.
the jQuery could probably do it.
You could say if it's. You can ask if that down is required.
So in the jQuery, we could probably say if this is required and it's blank, then yell at them on the way out instead of waiting for later. So we should be able to do that. So that's another thing to add to my list of things to do. What I would like to do is convert this whole thing to jQuery, just to prepare us for Lions. Okay. What I mean by jQuery is we can't have this function. And if jQuery is included, we cannot have that function. I could simply change all my dollars to double dollars. But why not, if you have jQuery, why not use it? And instead of having this, why not use jQuery? The syntax is a little different. But I think that's something we can get used to and just have jQuery embedded and not have any straight JavaScript script. It's all jQuery. Okay, so that's kind of my goal, is to get there. But that's one of the other things. Then we want our jQuery to say, if this is required, then tell them on the way out that this is a problem. Otherwise, go on. Yes, sir.
I wrote in last semester 2 different functions. One that it goes through and it will set variables in JavaScript, so you don't have to do the dollar thing. You can just use the variable name and it'll link to the DOM.
Remember that.
Yeah, and the other one was I have a what was it? It's a removed required attribute, and what it'll do is it'll go if you I believe if you pass it something, I can't remember how I use this, but basically it'll go through, and if it has the required attribute in the HTML, it'll pull that out because JavaScript's running, and then it'll color a field, and then it'll tell you.
Well, why do I need to pull it out?
At the time, I was doing it because I didn't want the HTML5 to have little red boxes pop up. I wanted to do my own JavaScript styling instead.
Okay.
So I removed the required attribute from the HTML. I had JavaScript handle that, and then so I
Okay.
didn't have both.
So if JavaScript is live, you pull the required attribute out so that you can do your own error messages.
Yeah.
Because some of the browsers color when you blur. But maybe we'll take advantage of that. So keep those handy. They sound like handy utilities. All right. All I'm really looking for is mins and maxes that I don't want right now. But the other part of it that I really want to take a look at also is, here's an input. Okay. If the input is less than 0, that now each of these inputs, the length we'll worry about later. Here's the valid. If it's less than 0,
It should be a min.
this should be the ptr.min. Or, I don't know, if the input is greater than the max. Pounds must be between, if there is a max.
So now, if you haven't defined a max, is that statement gonna go crazy?
You could do, yeah, well, you can do a, you would have to do or ptr.max and input is greater than ptr.max in parentheses, because that first one is going to check, it's a null check.
Which one? This one?
No, so after your or,
Yeah.
you can leave that there, but put a parentheses right after your or, other side. Yep, and then do ptr.max. Space and then another, because it'll check to see if ptr max.
Exists. If it does, then it uses this.
Right.
So then you would have to use that on min probably, in case there isn't.
You would, unless you as a programmer know, but yeah.
But you wouldn't, because you're in the JavaScript, which is technically part of the GUI, right? That's the interesting about JavaScript here. It's technically part of the GUI. And what I would love to be able to, that's my goal here, is to completely remove it.
And I might be a little off, you might have to, we'll check it when we run it, but the ptr min and ptr max might have to come before that if statement. I can't remember how we did it at work. Where that's, you have to check to see if it's, no, because it'll be false first and just get right out of that and. It won't even evaluate the second one.
Right. Should. But then this becomes an issue too, doesn't it?
We can make,
Yeah,
make
you'd
a
have to do
function.
2 different statements, or just say it has to be between the min and max.
That's what I've done.
We can make a
Past
function that
is
returns a string that's either, if there's only a min, you have to say it's greater than a min. If it's both a min and max, it stays in between them.
that's a good idea.
Or you just break your if statement apart.
but then that's gonna be used everywhere.
Yeah, you need something that is universal.
There, for now.
And just say min and max, you could go, colon, PTR min, PTR max, and put the range in there.
I could, but if they don't exist, then what?
Then you're never gonna hit that error.
True.
You're gonna false out of it.
No, because one or the other could, or you said if I split it, right?
Or if you
Oh, yeah, cause min might.
Because
not
one or the
exist
other
for
might
max
not be
one.
there.
Yes,
columns
you're right.
must be greater than PTR min, less than PTR max.
But if one of them doesn't exist, what does that give me? So we'll leave it for that right now. We'll contemplate that. I think Paul's answer of a function to sort that out for me, to get the complexity out of here, and then we could do the same thing with lots of mins and maxes, right? You just return min and max or min or max and have a function that does that for any min-max pair. We just send it a pointer and it does the rest. Generates the error message. It's a good idea. Why don't you write that one while I'm doing this? No. Okay. I know not now. I need your help here. Okay. So here's kind of the same thing. This is gone. So this is again ptr.min and pt. See, now there's an advantage of using ptr all over the place. And even that could be a function, right? You send it PTR, you send it to new value, and it tells you true or false, it's acceptable. Because I'm probably going to be cutting and pasting this a couple of dozen times. Not in this program, but in other ones. And really all of this right now I'm just doing to see if it'll work. Test it. Quantity seems kind of redundant. I got way too many integers in this program.
Out of range.
Sample data I don't think I'm even using. No short circuit and we still need validate form shouldn't change because we just validate the same way we did before. And then we have initialize field values. That's just for testing. I'm getting real tempted to yank that one out now anyways because now we're going to be testing the form. Save. Okay. Then we said, as part of our strategic plan here, is we're going to create a separate model file. What?
It didn't save.
It didn't save? Oh, wrong control keys. Thank you. Okay. Then we decided we're going to add a new model file. So this is a rule. Right. So I'm going to create a new file. And I'm going to save it right away so I don't forget. And we'll call this the weights constants. So we've got weights cases, now we got weights constants. And inside here we just define a constant for every one of our fields and for every one of the objects on that form that we want to validate. So is that the same? Yep, this is the form now. I have an item name. Its ID is text item name. So our philosophy was that we are going to say that txt item name underscore. Is that what we decided?
Yep.
Okay. Or do we want to use the name instead of the txt?
I say name. The txt messes it up even more.
Makes it a little hard to read. Okay, item name, and the first thing we want is required. REQ enough? I would think so. Equals, and the item name is required, so we put in the required tag. If it's not, our philosophy was, again, this is for the recording for the people who weren't here, our philosophy was you leave that string empty. And so we insert this into the HTML5 tag to make the required part come in there. And back to what Neil was talking about, you might be able to just circumvent this and say, I'm not doing it. But yours is if JavaScript is on, and that's part of why we're trying to communicate these two. It's amazing all the gyrations we're going through for JavaScript. But anything else? We probably want to set the max length, right? And let's just make it 25.
Make 10 for testing.
True. Okay.
You need dollar sign on it?
Do I need a dollar sign on all of these? Thank you.
And PHP tags.
For a text field, I think that's all that you would have for a text field.
That's probably it. Okay. So then the next one.
Unless you want to do
Validation.
the entire constant. So you don't have to
Oh,
type in.
But I thought we were going to do that, weren't we? So item
I
name.
think that should go in a different section at the bottom.
Yep.
And my.
Okay, but let's build it while we're here. Item name validation equals. And then we said, oh, you said commas, right? So I want to put in the item name required, comma,
Single quote.
single quote for min max.
Max length.
Max length.
But then the next,
Oh, no, that's.
You need the same quotes before that, don't you?
No,
No.
that's what they're telling me I don't need.
It's starting with item name required. So
so this would be max length equals.
Do I want, is it going to put spaces in between these with my commas, or is it just going to? So if I want to do that, I have to do.
You need max length
You
before
need the
that.
max length in there.
that's
Max length
a,
equals.
that's a string. What you're doing with the quotes is a string.
Okay, so that's what comes here.
And yes, you did need a space.
You need a quote on each side as
Oh,
well.
wait. Yeah, because you need to put a space, because when it concats, it does not put spaces in the middle.
But you need quotes, yeah.
No,
No.
Yeah,
I don't need
Oh,
quotes.
wait,
In
yes.
HTML, it should
you
require.
don't even need 'em.
If we validate it, it'll probably require them.
Oh, right. Okay. For that. Sorry.
Yeah, but aren't you missing the string for required equals?
No, because it's embedded inside
It's
here.
Just right required.
Oh, yeah.
Require, yeah.
Okay, so this is going to say required, and I'm assuming my HTML has a space in front of this item name validation. It's going to say required, and then max length equals max length. So that's 10 with quotation marks around it. And if you want to rearrange those, you can. I think it's time to test one of them, though, you. See how this philosophy works here. Save, which means then in my edit form,
Is it worth saving yourself a little typing and putting the 10 in quotes?
putting the what in quotes?
10 in quote. Oh no, because that quotes won't come through. Never mind. Done.
And that would change.
It would just be 10 as a string.
It would change it to a string instead of
As far as
And it doesn't matter.
It's a string.
Right? At this point, it doesn't matter whether it's a string or a number. The point still is it gets inserted inside of the HTML as either the number 10 or the characters 10.
Right.
Still needs quotes around it. So whether there's quotes around this doesn't matter.
No, I was thinking
Unless I
change-
put quotes inside it.
Yeah, and that's just.
Then it looks really dumb. Because this is, again, my validation. It's a 10. It's a number. I prefer that. Okay, so then we go to the weights. Edit.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, and here's my item name.
Well, first you gotta include the constants in the top.
Oh, you could even put your error in there.
Could. Okay, so you're suggesting I do it in here, This is where I include the header, and I need my constants. Probably not a bad idea.
Or just put the constants as an include file in the header.
No,
The problem with the header is it gets included into every single page, and these are just constants for this page.
For the form, okay.
So this is probably a decent place to put it.
not PHP.
Thank you. And a lot of this JavaScript probably still applies, though the date may not. We'll have to see. Then we come down here, and here is my input: type equals hidden, name equals, value equals. And then
No, you don't know.
PHP.
That's, well,
That's the action.
that's your hidden one.
That's your hidden one, yeah. You wanna go down the line? That can go away.
Okay, so this one. No,
One more.
that one. So the size is okay because that's how big is the box. Okay, and so here we would PHP echo the validation constants for item name. Item name validation.
I think you need one more.
One more who?
And some stuff to end on.
Another carrot. Or no, you don't. You just need to get rid of that one.
What the heck happened?
That's right.
It auto put in something for you and you put
Oh, no, yeah.
rid of that.
It tries to automatically put it in.
You need one more then.
Do you need end input?
No, there is no end input, is there?
I don't think you need that.
Weird.
You don't need that slash. No, that one you.
That's the beginning of my input. Now, somebody was saying we could put the error messages in there as well. That's possible. Now, a lot of these error markers, they're there for JavaScript. Okay, so that was a big test. Include model weights constant failed. Open the screen. No such file. Maybe I didn't save it in the right spot. Weight constants. Probably not going to let me rename it while it's open.
You can rename it in brackets.
Can rename it? Cool.
Just click. Might have to right click.
At the bottom, down.
Nice. Didn't know that. Thank you. Unexpected comma, line 4 of weight constants. Line 4, unexpected comma.
Maybe you need to start it with the string. Oh, you had two commas.
No, I didn't. Isn't this a string?
No, because I think what it's seeing there is it's seeing you put a variable into there or a constant. Yeah, I think that. But you can even do double single quotes. Should work.
Need some help?
Oh, no.
Middle of
Ben-
class.
Vincent was using there, so,
Okay.
sorry.
It's all right.
Good old fashioned concatenation now.
Spaces aren't necessary, but I like them for readability. So you're gonna have to tell me the syntax on that a little later. Okay, so now here, it's required. Didn't do anything. Well, I wouldn't yet.
HTML look like?
Please fill out this field. Okay, and there was, that's another question. Did I have a required in there already? I don't think so. I didn't see one.
No, but if it renders, it should render. what's
True.
required. Except it's hard to read. But there's the required, there's the max length equals 10. So now we test the max length to make sure. They hit that hard enough for the recording? I think so. Cool. So now we do the same thing for the numbers with mins and maxes. So let's do one of those. I think if we demonstrate one, and that's going to be ounces. Oh, we want to demonstrate this one too. What happens if I don't set a max? So we need to do both of those. And so here we go once again, doing Volker's technique of one beast at a time. And so this is weight pounds. Let's get the right names so I don't mess that up. Tell you what, let's do the split. Hate that.
Drag it to the straight down. To the
You're gonna
file.
drag it to bottom.
It says you can click open a file when the
But
page has focus.
It's because it's already open in your tab. You have to drag it to your bottom.
Just drag
Okay,
it straight down.
constants. Oh, I got, oh, there, that bottom. I knew that. Okay, so this one's called, that's not even the right file, dummy. There. Thought I,
Just drag it down,
I know you can, but why can't I click in here and just pick it like I'm supposed to be able to?
because it's already open in the tab.
Weight's constant, so I got all these that I don't really want. Weights, cases it shouldn't need. Okay. So this is item weight pound. Be a good test. Oh, we don't want this, do we? What else for numbers? Mins, maxes, oh, step. Is that how it's done?
One.
I know why the commas didn't work.
Why?
Commas work for echo only, because echo, what you're doing is you're sending echo
Oh, a whole list.
parameters, and then it's printing them one after the other.
So we're
It's
building
skipping
the string
back.
here. If yeah,
And that's why it's
there are other ways to build the string, but that's why it wouldn't work. Okay.
for straight up concatenation, you have to use periods.
You're gonna wanna use single quotes.
Yeah, single quotes are faster.
See anything else?
Looks good to me. Gotta bring it in. You didn't set it on your HTML.
I didn't set it in my.
You
Oh,
didn't.
You gotta fix what the IntelliSense.
hmm.
You gotta fix what the IntelliSense screwed up too.
Is again screwed up?
Yep.
What the heck?
It's like Notepad plus plus is making a comeback.
What the heck?
Mhm.
Oh, that's just a drop down. Okay. Okay, let me go. So this is not required, which is what I asked for. And in here I had a min of 0. Can I go negative?
You can type it in.
Until you click OK.
Hmm?
Now try sending it.
But shouldn't my JavaScript kick in?
No, it won't even let it get to JavaScript. It'll
Yeah,
stop.
that's HTML5 still.
HTML5. will
No, but
stop.
it's on blur, the F12. It'll bring up your whatchamacallit. No, but F12, because you still should get your error there because you didn't disable your JavaScript is what you're saying. So it
Right.
should- right. So if you press F12, you can see if there's any errors in your JavaScript. Well, F12 and I don't know. You can right click and click show developer tool. Nope. It's okay, it's in the settings on the right hand next to your last pass. Next to your last pass symbol on the right in Chrome. Then, nope, that's the actual settings. It's in there. It's more tool.
Resource.
Wow, that's a lot different. It's just F12 in Windows. And then if you go sources, your Javas.
Or is
You're
it?
not getting any errors in your console, but you'll have to do the unblur again to see if it actually happens.
Thought we commented out the JavaScript so we could test.
No, I commented out the mins and maxes. I don't think I commented out the JavaScript. Commented, oh, we did.
So when you go and click enter, send, or whatever, HTML5
It did yell at me.
still catches it.
HTML5 caught it, yes, which is kind of our test, right? One of our many tests here. There it is. There's no, there it is, pounds is out of range. Cool.
And if you type 5.1, then it should yell at you when you hit submit.
No.
Actually,
No,
it
it's
took it
just got
off.
rid of it.
No, when you hit submit, the step, oh, okay.
Oh, that's because you have integer key press going. If you commented out your JavaScript again, you'd see it say that it's not a valid number.
Why did my integer key press intercept it? Shouldn't have allowed a decimal point for integer key press, should it? So I think the step one is what is taken care of now. The number field has done that. There is a sample date on there. So,
Your integer key press works. I don't know why. Like it works in my past programs in Chrome, so it's not. I don't know why it's not.
item weight pound key press. It is executing it and not crashing.
Try putting a breakpoint inside our actual file.
Inside of,
Integer key press.
why is it still displaying it? It got inside there. If something is selected,
It's because after you started typing and you got SDF down on the console, it just gets rid of the JavaScript it was trying to execute. There's the error.
this is Chrome. You've been asking me about Chrome anyways, right? Or you said it worked, the integer key press works? You said it
No,
doesn't?
wait, no, integer, is it integer doesn't, and I have to use decimal.
Okay, that's it. This field selection start stuff doesn't make sense to Chrome.
Yes.
It doesn't know what to do with it.
That's what it is. You just
Maybe the
gotta do
numeric, it may be the numeric thing too, so that's on my list of things to do. Okay, so that part of it is okay, get rid of that. But it was checking my range and just said pounds was out of range and didn't crash because there was no maximum. So if I put in 111 in here, it's happy. Cool. So now let's do a min-max.
Steps.
Hmm?
You have to change the out steps. And you gotta add
Escape.
You gotta add the max in there too.
Yep. This string is making me crazy, but I think putting it in HTML would make me just as crazy. So
Couldn't you always just hit enter and put it on the line?
yeah,
You don't need to type that out, you already have it, you just need to change that.
not max. I don't.
Well, yeah, but you
Yeah,
have,
but you had with min, you just had
Yeah,
to change the
two
min
mins.
max.
You have 2 min variables.
That should be right. And then just gotta add it in the page. Right?
didn't look like the values. I like it.
Not bad. Good job. Okay, dates. In my notes, I have updated. I'm recording this, Sheila, so you can pick it all up later. I know you're trying to keep up, and that's a challenge. In my notes for Unit 5, I've updated these and pulled some stuff out, and in my spare time, I will update them to correspond to what we just did in the recording. But at the end of this, I showed you how to bring in that date picker. Okay, so here's the label in the date picker. Actually, it looks like there's a command missing. Oh, there it is. I need the require statement. Let's see how well I can copy from there. That require is needed on the form. Not bad. And then I need this calendar folder. Now I don't think I have one of those handy.
Special quotes out there.
Okay. Now, since that's PHP, John, you would tell me those would be apostrophes, right? Because it'd be a little faster.
Yeah, the double quotes PHP looks
Analyzes
inside
it.
of it.
Yeah,
for
I understand.
embedded.
Okay, so down here is the actual date, and it has an input, and the input goes away. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to move the image marker down.
JavaScript's gonna blow up.
And then inside there, here's the label. Then you add a PHP tag. Be very surprised if this pastes well.
You never know.
Sorry.
Not too bad. Here's a note. Do not use the form reset that we've been using for Firefox because it messes up this thing. So if I have a form reset in my JavaScript, which I don't have open, I should pull that. This is left over from the previous line. Calendar folder has to be in the same folder with the index. Date completed, I think, is the default date. So we'll have to, the name of this object, we have to give it no, this is the name of the object. Okay. I called it sample date in the other one. This says create me a calendar, give it this name, and I forget what the true is all about. After you've created it, then you can set the path to the calendar. Otherwise it can't find it. And we can set the icon. There are all kinds of GIFs. If you don't like the little icon calendar that it's got, you can pick your own. And somewhere I should document where the calendar website is. If the dollar book, where'd book come from? Okay, that's my completed array, so we can remove that temporarily. That's my request array, basically. And we can say set the date equal to whatever is coming in a YMD format. So for right now, let's just set it. This is PHP, so learn my lesson 1958-08. Write this down 16. Send me a card.
3 days after me.
Pardon me?
3 days after me.
2 days after you, except for the year.
Well, yeah, a few years.
Okay.
Here's the deal.
Now, if it's blank, okay, that's kind of what this is saying. If it's blank, I'm going to comment the rest of this stuff out for right now. If it's blank, then create an HT or PHP variable. This is one way to create a date, right? There was another way, new date time parentheses. This is one way to do the date. And then simply transfer today's date into the calendar. Notice it's the same thing, but it does need to be in a format. And then this has to be last. Okay, so what this doesn't show us is how to set some mins and maxes. I'm going to try to find, I think if I go inside of the actual folder, it will show me the address where I got this from. So this is going through and creating it. I've got a lot of comments. Take the comments out. It's really 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of code. Maybe some code in case it's blank. But all of this is very feasible, easy to do. Save that. Minimize it. Now let's see if I can go find a copy of it somewhere. Could be a challenge. I might have to go to my website to find a copy of that folder, and that's going to be painful. I'm going to pause the recording while I try to find this folder. Okay, I've copied this calendar folder, which I promised to email to you, and I will. This is just a folder that's got all the stuff in it for the calendar. If we look, it's got a PHP, it's got a CSS, a JavaScript file. This is why I'm concerned that this calendar won't work very well if JavaScript is turned off. if we're looking for a solution to get us to JavaScript is off, I still want a function. That could be a challenge. But then it's got some classes and it's got some images, and this is where you find the calendar and a few others. So if you don't like this icon, you can go find your own. But I think with all of that done, and I think I saved everything in brackets, everything is saved. I should be able to come in here and give it a go. And there's the calendar. It does have, it looks like the year is off. I don't know what I did wrong about the year, or maybe it's out of range for this calendar, or I don't know. But for some reason the year didn't come in. Looks like it's bottoming out at 1985. I wonder why that is. Could be something in the JavaScript that's doing that. So that's why the year didn't kick in. Let's see, campers. Yeah, there are campers who are my age, believe it or not. So that's something we'll have to take a look at. See if we can fix, but that's why it didn't come in, because it's bottoming out. And there may be something, there's nothing here that's telling it to not do that. So there must be something, and I'll play with that. But that brings it in. Again, you can see how this works. You can click on it here, please. Maybe not, because I got a half and half.
Try changing the year.
Don't think it's Chrome. I must be missing something, because that works okay. It doesn't seem to want to work here. Don't know why. So I'll have to investigate that, but you get the basic idea of how this works. It's pretty easy to put in. What we still have to figure out is how do we set mins and maxes for this? And again, I'll go dig around and I'll find the source of this calendar, and we should be able to process from there. So here's the calendar. Let's see if there's anything in the JS file. Because right now our calendar is setting, there's the min year, max year. Min year is 1900, so I don't know why it wouldn't let me go back to 1958. There's the min year, max year, and I think it also does a min max adding to the notice how that DatePicker started just a couple of years back and then went out to 2050 something. Well, we don't need that. So it's a matter of tweaking in here to find some of the features, but you can get the basic idea of how to include it. And that's what I wanted to get you for today. So let's stop the recording and then we'll pick up with this. Next time I'll show you a few more features when I get them sorted out, including finding the website.